Howdy folks, Lift here, and I want to share with you my gripe list for Empyrion. Now, before we get started, what I want to say is that, first of all, I'm not actually angry or anything. I know somebody's going to see the title and not even watch the video and respond and be like, what are you mad about? Blah, 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 right? But no, I'm not mad. What I think the game needs a lot of quality of life improvements at this point. A lot of things have gone without... because they're working on trying to put in all these major improvements, major improvements. And yeah, so basically, I think what they should do, in my opinion, is take a cycle, maybe a month or two, whatever, and add in some of these small things that would, these are the things that I've got here are more, they're not things that require massive amounts of programming, huge features or anything like that, not giant core features or whatever, and just quick fixes that they can do and put together that, like I said, would greatly improve the gameplay, because it has been, you can probably see by the numbers of players on the Steam DB and all that stuff, that the number of players has gone down, and et cetera, et cetera. So here is my list. The first thing, and they're in no particular order, is multiple symmetry planes. I think that should be pretty obvious, but being able to set up a symmetry plane in more than one mirror axis would be really nice. It shouldn't take too much to do that. Programmatically, it's not that difficult. Another thing would be a terminal or data pad. I've got a sheet here, by the way, which is what I keep looking at. So yeah, a terminal and data pad for lore or text for people who are doing scenarios, or like if you want to make a POI that has a story behind it, you could do that with, like a data pad that's sitting on a desk or that's sitting on the floor or whatever, instead of having to write that stuff on LCD screens, because it's just kind of dumb having to do that. It's just stupid, the little things like that, it would just add something, and it wouldn't take that much more to add that kind of thing. So anyway, randomization of deconstruction return. So when you are multi-tooling a thing and it gives back, for example, 25% return, it says, what it does is if you have 4 parts, it always gives you, like 4 steel plates. If something's made with 4 steel plates, it always gives you exactly 1 steel plate for every single one of those things that you deconstruct. It always gives you 1. When you're scrapping stuff, it's I don't know, it seems like it should be random. So basically each time you do that, instead of, there's 4 steel plates, instead of always giving you 1, it does for each of those 4 plates, it does a 25% chance of returning that 1 plate. So you might get 1, you might get 0, you might get 4, and because the thing is, what they're doing, and the big problem with it is not that so much as the fact that, like, if it uses 4 steel plates and 1 oscillator, for example, you'll never get the oscillator back, ever. There's 0. So they basically divide by 4, and then they round down, or they truncate, the integer, or to an integer. So yeah, unless you have 4 of something, if you have a 25% return rate, you're never going to get any of them back. And so it really ruins the whole deconstruction thing, in my opinion, and it's a really easy way. It's a really easy thing to fix. One of the other things would be unloading weapons. Please, can we unload a weapon and get our ammo back? Especially like the ship weapons that, you load them up with like 300 bullets and then wait, I want to move this to a different place on the ship, and I can't because well, I can, but I'm going to lose all my ammo, and especially with like the rockets and stuff with more expensive ammo. But anyway, that and the hand weapons, obviously. More fine control of the player. Now, what I mean is, like in Minecraft, you hold shift so that you can walk along ledges without falling off. It's like I said, it's just a little quality of life thing. As far as that goes, I think also being able to crouch and crawl would probably be on other people's list. I think that probably would make my list too. The next thing would be grayscale or other options for the night vision. The green screen is just obnoxious in my opinion. It's basically, you need like flashing text on the screen that says, you're in night vision mode. You're in night vision mode. You're in night vision. That's what the green screen looks like to me. That's what it is. It's insulting. Because it's like 1980s technology, and it's not the 1980s in the game, you know? And so I'd really like either a grayscale, and also I think even having a tier 2 night vision goggles that basically don't lower the lighting, you know what I mean? That give you some certain lighting level, even if it's from your own perspective or whatever. But yeah, a tier 2 night vision would be really awesome. So you could still see it in color, but you're doing night vision. Another thing that I think would be cool would be a set of solid glass blocks in all of the standard block shapes that they've got now. So, you know, you can do either glass or transparent aluminum or whatever it is that you want to call it, whatever material you want to call it, I don't care. But, you know, something that's clear, but full block size. So you can put, you know, like you do in Minecraft, you know, where you build windows out of clear blocks, that kind of thing. So that's that thing. I'd really like to see more resources anyway, and aluminum would be a fun one to add. Okay, so the next thing would be teleporters in survival mode, being able to use in base, so from one point to another inside your own base, okay, would be the first level. For the second level, you know, tier 2 or whatever, teleporters would be you being able to set up a teleporter in 2 different bases or structures on the same play field. So, you know, within one planet, you can teleport from one place on a planet to another place on a planet. And if they even wanted to go tier 3, you know, you can do between planets and stuff like that. Because the thing with that is, and they seem to think that it's overpowered, but you think about it, you have to get from point A to point B in order to set up, you know, you have to get all the way to the other side of the galaxy to set up a teleporter there to begin with. And then when you go back, you can't bring your ships back. You can't bring your ships across the galaxy by doing that. And so if you just want to run from one base to another, maybe it's under attack and you want to defend it, or maybe, you know, you forgot something in your inventory on the other base and you've set up the teleporter, then it's not, you're not going to like gain some gigantic advantage over it, you know, and destroy everybody else because you got this teleporter thing. So I really, you know, and I've actually used them in survival. I have used teleporters in survival, and I believe that was season 11 where we did that, and I think I've done that in previous seasons too. I think it was season 6 or 7, something like that. But I mean, I've set them up in survival, and it's not like it drastically changes the gameplay in any negative sort of way. It actually drastically improves the gameplay because you don't have to spend a bunch of time, you know, grinding out pentaxid in order to get across the galaxy. It's like they gave you the ability to get across the galaxy and then made it a total pain to do so. So, but anyway, so teleporters, yes, teleporters. That was a quick one, right? Another one for scenario builders and stuff, and POI builders, is the ability to specify the contents of a cargo box. I think they're actually working on that, or there is a way to do that, but it's kind of hacky right now. But it would just be really nice if you could, you know, set up this cargo box can contain this, and I know you can do that with a personal cargo box in certain ways, but it's not exactly the same thing. The other thing that I would like to see that's related to this is customizable loot tables. And you could do that by, like, for a specific cargo box. So this specific cargo box on this specific POI, you know, has this loot table for it. So it still randomly picks, but, you know, you can choose what it's randomly picking for. And then you could do that either by block, by structure, or even by playfield. So you could say all this, you know, this is like a level 10, you know, this is a lava planet where you can't even get out of your ship without dying, and you know, and that kind of stuff. And you have to have all of these technologies in order to even get there, and all these things. And then when you get there, you open up a cargo box, and it's like, ooh, it's some crushed stone and a couple of magnesium powder. I mean, it's like, you know, this is a really high level planet. It's an end game planet. You should get end game loot out of it, and so you should be able to set that by the play field, and that kind of thing. I think that would be really awesome for doing that stuff. And then that would probably also make it so that you can do more recycling of the same POIs even on different planets and stuff. So that way it's not like, oh, well, I know what this POI already has in it and that stuff. But anyway, that's that one. The next one is a way to find the resource asteroids in space. I did the math one day, and I think it was 11.5 hours it would take to fly a search pattern around the orbit in order to cover all of the areas, basically to ensure that you've gotten close enough to find the asteroids. And it's kind of ridiculous because you can't see them until you get close enough. Like they're not even drawn in. And it's not like this is a performance issue because, I mean, you look at the asteroid rings around other planets and there's like a zillion of these, but it's, but you can't see the resource ones. And the thing is, if they make them look like the other ones, for the most part, same shape with just a little bit of texture on it or something like that, you would still have to get out and, you'd basically have to use your zoom or your binoculars or whatever, your scope on your gun, something like that. You'd have to basically, take a telescope and search around through the sky. And so it's not like you're just going to instantly know where they all are. They're not going to be all flagged out for you and all that stuff. And so, you still have to do some work in exploring and all that stuff to find them. It would be a lot more fun that way. They could even be inside the asteroid field so that you might have to go to a few different, you might have to go above or below or, from different angles to ensure that you found them and stuff. But, yeah, I think that would really help a lot. It's actually, that's something that's really annoying in the game right now, that, like I said, the game has gotten less fun to play over the last several versions, and that's one of the things that has contributed to that is the inability to find the asteroids and stuff. The next thing is better indicators for when you are too hot or too cold. The radiation thing is nice that you can hear it and you can tell that you're taking radiation buildup or whatever. And I mean, if you're actually too hot or too cold, you can feel it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like being hungry or somebody tapping on your shoulder. It's not something you can ignore. You can pretend like you're not noticing it, but it's not something that you can just shut out of your mind or whatever. You're too hot or too cold, and they need something that's more than a tiny little red triangle on the corner of the screen that you don't even notice until all of a sudden it's like, you're too hot or something. So they need better indicators for that, even if it's just like a little frost creeping up on the screen or, something like that, or a little bit of a red around the edge, something. Even a little beeping sound effect, or a suit voice telling you this stuff. Another one would be sorting the inventory. It would be really cool if we could set up our own preferences for sorting inventory, but doing something, you could sort it by category, you could sort your inventory by mass or volume, whichever, because it's a real pain trying to find stuff and that kind of thing right now. Light flickering for lights as opposed to actual like scheduled on off. I'm talking about random because like this can be a client side just effect. It doesn't matter whether it's synchronized between different players on a server or that kind of thing. Just in two different modes. So you would have like a that kind of thing, and it's random. And you have a slow mode and a fast mode for those, just to make some ambiance. Like if you've got, for example, the abandoned mine shafts, or not the abandoned mine shafts, that's Minecraft, but the abandoned mines and the abandoned factories and all those things. They would be nice to put those types of things in there. Another one would be the ability to lock a turret in place, put it on your hotbar, and manual fire it from the cockpit. I think especially for the hovercrafts, this would be really nice. A different way of handling this, I think, would be the ability to use the WASD controls while you're in a turret. So you're steering the turret with your mouse or whatever, and then you're actually moving your ship with your regular controls. So that with a hovercraft, you could actually control the turrets manually. That would actually make hovercraft combat a lot of fun against POIs and stuff, because right now you can basically pilot it and dodge incoming fire while hoping that your turrets aren't complete morons, which good luck with that. So yeah. Okay, next thing is grenades. That enough said. Grenades. We need grenades. Okay, next thing after that, randomize between models, behaviors, and specs for wildlife, like hit points and all that stuff. So instead of, the cricket is always a passive creature with an exact number of hit points and blah, 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 you randomly generate all of these things, all of the behaviors and specs and all that stuff within a certain range of whatever, and then you decide on its model that it's going to look like. So that way when you play the game and you first land on a planet, you don't know what's going to be hostile or not. I think that would make a huge difference. It also includes the loot and the hit points and stuff like that. You could base that on the playfield's difficulty because they already have the difficulty setting. For example, so you have the starter planet. It has golems that are slow and weak and only give crush stone for loot. The endgame planet has boulder throwing golems that drop Zeskosium and Pentaxid. That kind of thing. So instead of one model is always exactly the same thing, it makes it too predictable. The next thing, or actually two things, are cockpit zoom and binoculars. So for your player, binoculars, kind of like the night vision or whatever, and a zoom within the cockpit that really needs to be a thing. I think that's about as simple as grenades. And the next thing would be a gardening tool. Now they could just use the multi-tool model for it for right now or whatever, but gardening tool, it tells you which conditions are met or not met for a plant. Like when you point it at a plant, it just tells you that. And for example, the temperature, the radiation in the air, and then it would tell you how long until it's going to be pickable, because there's a timer on that thing, so when you're looking at it, it shouldn't be that difficult to do. to make that display on the screen, even if it's a primitive display for right now. But that would be really nice, especially as many people as have problems trying to grow stuff. Next thing is like Minecraft, the player inventory just explodes on death. When you get killed, instead of a backpack neatly sitting there, I think those little boxes that drop when you run out of inventory space, those things whoosh, everywhere. That would be cool. When you and another thing that's related to that would be the ability to specify where things go, like on your hotbar or in your inventory or whatever, so that you have certain slots, like my gun always goes into slot 1 and that kind of stuff, so that when you do pick up stuff, you don't have to spend a half hour rearranging your inventory and stuff, especially for people who are really particular about that stuff. Another thing, really simple, when you're drilling, an indicator that shows you how much storage space you have left, because now you're actually like running out and spitting the stuff out. So yeah, that would really help. The free look on the motorcycle, when you're going up and down hills, you're like looking up and down as you go up and down the hills. And, I'm just trying to follow the landscape or whatever. I'm trying to look down over behind the bike. And so as I'm going up and down hills, I don't want to look up. I want to still keep looking over the top of the hill that I'm going over and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be a really nice one. For creative mode especially, and possibly in survival, I don't see why it would be such a big problem, or any kind of exploit or something, is a block counter when you're placing a line or rectangle of blocks. That would be really nice. It actually tells you this is 10 blocks by 5 or whatever, The homing weapons that they have should tell you when they're locked onto something, because you just fire and then who knows. Ammo names should match up with the things that use them. So, pistol ammo, that kind of thing, HV plasma ammo. I think they've changed a few of those. I'm not positive. It's been a while since I've made ammo for all those things. Another thing that I think would improve a lot is insta-death for certain conditions. So you step out into space, boom. You know, it's not you have 90 seconds or 100 seconds or whatever. Certain things should just be you die, you know. Maybe 2 seconds, but not like an hour and a half of, you know, you step out onto, like I made a planet that was 9,000 degrees, which is, I know is ridiculous, but that's kind of the point. And your body temperature, you step out into it and your body temperature goes up to 500 Celsius. So what is that, like over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you who know only that system. But yeah, you know, your body temperature goes up to like, you know, molten steel or whatever. And you're just breathing hard for 90 seconds until you finally die. Okay. Right. So, you know, that radiation extremes too, you know, your cells just explode, whatever, you're dead. Instant death would be really nice. It makes for the PvE aspect would be a lot more versus environment if the environment could actually kill you. Instead of making space really cold, space is a vacuum. So the EVA suit that protects you from the vacuum has no armor and stuff, and if it's punctured, like you take any kind of damage, now you're exposed to vacuum, you die. That includes moons that are, you know, no atmosphere and all that stuff too. That would be really cool. And instead of having, you know, just a booster, so you've got heavy armor and then you put this EVA thing that magically, you know, makes it all better and stuff. I think it would be more fun and more challenging if you had certain environments where you really have to be super careful about the environment itself, instead of, you know, here, find this random loot and you're forever invincible kind of thing. A real simple one, larger slider handles in the control panel. Please. They're so tiny and there's no reason for it. The next one, critter radar. It could be a suit upgrade, I don't care, whatever. It could be a thing that you hold in your inventory, like the ore scanner or the, you know, loot detector or whatever. But yeah, critter radar would be really nice, because, you know, it's just, you guys know why. Okay, so anyway, the next thing is the drone carcass on the radar. They kind of fixed it after like 3 years. They finally made it so that the drone doesn't show a red dot on the radar, and now it shows nothing, so you can't even see where the thing is. So if you shoot down 3 of them, good luck finding all 3 by the time, you know, you're going to loot them. So, I don't get why that one is such a difficult thing. You could even have like a separate type, you know, a dead drone, you know, entity, and you spawn in the dead drone entity where the live drone used to be, and that one has a gray marker on it instead. Anyway, next thing is spotlight turrets. And another related one would be an aimable beacon. So kind of like the turrets, where you can get in the turret and you can aim it whichever direction you want by mousing around. I want a spotlight that's mounted on one of those. Instead of a weapon, it's a spotlight, and you can turn it whichever direction you want, you know, and then it, you know, lights up where you leave it pointed. You could probably even use the turret AI to have it point at hostiles that you choose. That would be even cooler, because the AI is already in place for that. Instead of it firing a weapon, it just highlights them at night, so it's nighttime and there's a bad guy coming up, the spotlights converge on him. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be fun. And the other thing is an aimable beacon. What I mean by that is like a laser beacon type of thing. Again, kind of like in Minecraft or any other thing, you know, where you basically can see it from a long way away. So you can light up, it's a deco. It's totally a deco thing. You light up your base or whatever, and you make these big, you know, it's like a castle with the big giant beams shooting out in different directions or whatever from it. That would be cool. The flare effects are backwards. They get bigger as you get closer. Whatever it is, yeah, they get bigger as you get closer, which is backwards. And they also, they're just, you can't see them from far enough away. You need to be able to see them from a lot farther away. So that should definitely be a thing. And the let's see. Planet surface waypoints visible from orbit. I think that should be self-explanatory, but yeah, when you're coming in I want to land on my base. I should be able to see where it is on the planet from a waypoint that I've set on the planet while I'm still in orbit. I mean, we have the technology. It's called mathematics, people. Okay. All right. We have math. We have duct tape. Fix it, as Lewis Black said. Okay, so the next thing is, and saran wrap. You need saran wrap for that. The SI. The SI still sucks. I have recently run into that even in my latest series, taking apart a thing and it collapses and then there's floating blocks. Now let's remember, the reason for adding in the SI is that floating blocks are unrealistic and it ruins the game and it destroys immersion when there's floating blocks. And so we're going to add this thing in that's really annoying and keeps you from building stuff that you wanted to build, and it has nothing to do with floating block. Even if it's not floating blocks, it still keeps you from building cool stuff, and then it randomly breaks your base and still creates floating blocks anyway. So please, the SI still sucks. We need an option to turn it off. Game-wide option, like a game option, just like the difficulties. If I don't want to play with SI, I shouldn't have to remember every time I go in to turn it off. And a vast improvement, instead of making it so that you can only go so many blocks, instead of having a countdown from 12 to 0, and once it hits 0, those blocks break off, which obviously is broken. What you can do is just anything that is attached, something that's attached to the ground, is fine, is safe. So you have like a binary SI instead, and it's either attached or it's not attached. That I would probably be a lot better with. They could probably make it work a lot better, and it would probably be a lot easier to deal with and troubleshoot and all that. And so that would be really nice to fix the SI, as that's one of the core features that they've added, and they kind of added it in a halfway sort of, it's almost good enough for government work kind of way, and then they just left it. And left it to ruin gameplay without improving anything. Okay, the next thing would be a safe mode in creative for SI, so that it shows what would break without actually breaking it off. That's such a major pain when you're building in creative mode and something breaks off. It breaks half of your build because you weren't paying attention or whatever. It's creative mode, but I still want to know what's gonna break when I bring it into survival mode. I want to know what's gonna break. So please show me without actually breaking it. For creative mode, a few more things would be an instant hotbar switch. And so when you're switching things, like I'm switching from this multi-tool to this paint gun, why does it take like 3 seconds before I can start painting? Right? Okay. Same thing with the blocks and stuff. It's creative mode, please. The blocks do not get used up from the hotbar or your inventory in creative mode. That should be self-explanatory. It's creative mode. The fill all should refill, in your control panel on your bases and stuff. If you fill your fuel or oxygen or whatever, you shouldn't have to have that stuff in your inventory. You have to go into the item menu and go over to the tab and find where the fuel is, and then put fuel in your inventory, and go. It's like just click it. It's creative mode. I think that should be a thing that's that's in creative mode. Anyway, that is my short. That's my short gripe list, and I think at least some of those things, most if not all of them, could be addressed within an update that would take maybe 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 2 months to do, instead of trying to get these big halfway broken features that they add in that don't add anything to gameplay at at the time that they add them in. I really like to see gameplay improved once again. I know it's early access, and somebody's going to tell me that it's an alpha or whatever, and you shouldn't expect it to be fun or something. But the whole concept of early access is that you're making a deal with the developer that you're going to help them develop the game by paying into it before it's actually done. And their part in that is making sure that while it's still in development and in early access, that there's a degree of playability. There's so on our behalf, there's an expectation of playability for the game, that it's going to be fun in the meantime, that you're not just giving them money in the hopes that someday it'll be fun. I'm giving them hopes. I'm giving them my money. I gave them my money in the hopes that it would stay fun until it becomes even more fun as they improve it or whatever, and complete it and all that stuff. But anyway, that is my gripe list. And if you had any other ideas, again, I know people have lots of ideas of how the game could change. Specifically, this list was compiled as things that would be fairly easy programmatically to do. Maybe you're not a programmer and you wouldn't know the difference between what's easy to do, because some things that are easy for humans to describe to each other are insanely complex to program. Where, like the AI. Notice I didn't mention better AI, because better AI is not something you can just do. You can just whip up, that kind of thing. But yeah, anyway, that is my list. If you had any ideas, leave a comment below. And yeah, I'll make another one and list out all the stuff that everybody else said and make fun of them or whatever. I don't know. Or you can make fun of me or whatever. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.